Have you seen those advertisements on TV talking about how a certain product would only be available for a few days and to buy it now? While they may seem useless or uninteresting, it actually does manipulate some consumers into purchasing the product. How exactly? I'll show you how. Hello, I'm Clara, and with the help of my mentor AC, I'll be talking about how companies use specific psychological concepts in their advertising in order to manipulate consumers into purchasing their products from the comfort of my bedroom. Now, when you look into a house, you'll occasionally find an item that you don't remember purchasing or that you don't even use. And that's the issue. Companies are purposely trying to trick consumers into buying things they don't need and for possibly high prices. I decided to research this topic as with the new innovations in technology, it's becoming increasingly easier for companies to trick and exploit consumers into buying their products. By doing this research, I intend to help consumers think before purchasing something they don't need. Now, while there are many psychological concepts being used by companies today, I'll only be talking about a few that are typically used together, like the first group of loss aversion, urgency, and scarcity, the second group of reciprocity and liking, and the third group of anchoring bias and the Pygmalion effect. Now, starting off with the first group of loss aversion, urgency, and scarcity, loss aversion is when consumers have a preference to avoid loss that they'll impulsively purchase a product regardless if they need it or not. This is done by creating a sense of urgency or time sensitivity situations, like the example used in the introduction. Furthermore, urgency and scarcity is when consumers place a higher value on items that appear to be limited, scarce, or hard to acquire, and as such, place higher value on these kinds of items and place a lower value on items that are easier to acquire. This can mostly be seen in fast food companies like McDonald's or Burger King when they advertise limited edition items, or like the example seen in the slideshow, where McDonald's introduces the Shamrock Shake or the K-Burgers, or Starbucks with the pumpkin spice latte and unicorn frappuccino. These products are typically seasonal offerings, and you can only get them on a certain month or day. Moving on to the second group of reciprocity and liking. Reciprocity is when a company does something good for the consumer, and in return, the consumer does something good for the company, or vice versa. Now, liking is, as the name suggests, when a consumer likes a company and as such are more likely to purchase any goods from them, and as such, companies need to be aware of how on their target audience and how to actually appeal to them. Now, the most popular example is Starbucks and their sticker system, known as the Starbucks Traditions. When purchasing a drink, you can gain points or stickers, which you can trade for high-quality items like planners, tumblers, or water bottles. And these items typically have a very catchy or very unique design that really appeal to these consumers. It also helps that Starbucks is the biggest coffeehouse chain and usually comes out with mugs and products that appeal to most customers, thus following the reciprocity and liking concepts. Now, moving on to the third group of concepts, the anchoring bias is when consumers tend to use the first item they see as the point from which they make their decisions, and the Pygmalion effect is when high expectations lead to improved performances and low expectations lead to worsened performances. To be more specific, it's when companies set expectations and demonstrate how their products or services can enrich or improve the lives of customers, and as such, customers will believe it to be true and will result in a perception of higher quality. Now, at first glance, these concepts seem to be very unique or rare to witness in the real world. However, it's actually very common to see, such as how with Nespresso, they had originally priced their bags of coffee to cost 45 euros. And originally, consumers were very angry as they believed that this was a really high price. However, the consumers had actually compared the price or the cost per gram of a coffee pod, which turned out to be 50 cents, and it really reframed their perception of value. The second example is Starbucks again, as it has cultivated an image of high quality and premium offerings, consistently emphasizing its artisanal coffee, and sets high expectations for products, which as such encourages consumers to perceive Starbucks coffee as superior. Now, these examples and groups are only a few of what are actually used in the real world, and as such, it can make a consumer feel very overwhelmed at this manipulation. But not to fret, as there are some solutions that can help combat these specific concepts and can be applied to the rest of the concepts being used. Now, in order to properly combat the first group of loss aversion, urgency, and scarcity, it's recommended that consumers limit screen time as companies tend to promote their products on social media and to skip ads or promotion segments in videos. Another one is to place items in the shopping cart and wait for a few days to see if you truly want the item or if it's just an impulse buy, and to uninstall apps or remove payment information as it requires people to think if they truly want to buy the item or not. Now, overall, these solutions attempt to ensure that consumers think before falling for the urgency, and loss aversion, and that companies tend to inflict upon them before buying an item that they may not need, as typically these kinds of concepts being used, it really inflicts an impulse buy within customers. Now, for the second group of reciprocity and liking, consumers should recognize when companies are only showing the positive actions of the company, as while it may seem that the companies are giving consumers something equivalent of what they're paying, sometimes it may actually not be. Lastly, for the third group of the anchoring bias and Pygmalion effect, consumers should look for alternatives or substitutes and compare prices and quality, as while a product may look nicer due to the perception and expectation set, there may be another alternative with equal or better quality but at a cheaper price. In general, customers should take time to consider what might happen when you shop and to understand the signs. What this means is that beforehand, consumers should know that they might impulse buy items that they may not need, and that they should also understand what companies are trying to have them do by having them see or watch these advertisements. While these strategies may not work all the time, it is always better than mindlessly wasting money on an item that will never be used. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.